Keith, is the 7th gen retro?
Oh,
We're going to piss
the big
people
boy
off.
topics. Oh, we are going to have some fun. This is going to be nasty. This is going to be dirty. And you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. I'm right. Welcome on into the show where Keith knows it all and no one else does. Press any button to continue.
Man, I really feel like this episode is going to rustle a few feathers. A few of the what are they called? Retro elitists? Is that the word? Because we're pushing it out there this week, man. We are talking about the 7th gen of video game consoles. And
I cannot wait to smash some gates. You know what I mean? Those gatekeepers are about to have their gate smashed down. I have a bulldozer for their houses. I
like that.
And I'm going to take them away because I've done no notes for today, right? Because I can talk about this for days. But I did write down one thing that I think, if it was in the court of law, right? You know the way like when a lawyer is preparing and, you know, he gets a jury. Like, let's consider ourselves lawyers, okay? We're in the court of video games and we have a jury who we need to convince that, or, you know, the question at least, is the Wii, the Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3 Retro? And I have an opening statement, if that's okay.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen of the retro gamer jury who currently are undecided or disagree with the 7th generation being retro, I have this to say. In 2016, okay, the Nintendo 64 was 20 years old. Okay? 20 years old. Next year, being 2025, the Xbox 360 is 20 years old. Oh. So in 2016, did you consider the Nintendo 64 to be retro? I would be shocked if you said you didn't. And we are now at a stage where the Xbox 360 is just as old as the Nintendo 64 was in 2016.
That is crazy. When you put it like that, man, when you lay it out in the line like that, it is fucking wild to think of. Like, I can still... The Wii, the Xbox 360, and the PlayStation 3 are 3 consoles that I can remember getting. You know, the likes of the getting a Game Boy, getting an NES, getting a Super Nintendo. I don't remember them. I've some nostalgic memories of the N64, but everything else, I can remember getting them because I was an adult. But to think that
you were sentient.
Yes, yeah. Just about, yeah. And just to think that was 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, is fucking wild. Now, I have a question for you. Out of the Wii, the Xbox 360 and the PS3, which one did you get first?
The Xbox 360, for 2 reasons. It's the one I wanted, but also solely it was the one that launched first. So the Xbox 360 came out in 2005. I know the PlayStation 3 came out in 2006. And I'm not sure when the Wii exactly came out. I'm pretty sure it was late 2005, early 2006 as well. I think it was a Christmas console. So
2006, yeah.
It was 2006, okay. So the Xbox 360 had a year ahead of itself on the competition, which really, really made a big difference. You know, that really was the market leader for a while. Well, the Nintendo was always doing its own thing. Like, there's PlayStation and Xbox at loggerheads, and the Nintendo's in its own lane, you know, selling whatever the hell they want, knowing they'll make a fortune. But yeah, the 360 was the one for me. What about you?
The same. I had an Xbox 360, and it's funny because I initially had my Xbox 360, and I loved it, man. I absolutely loved the Xbox 360. I thought it was the coolest console ever. I loved the controller. I loved the games. I loved the look of the console. I never had any issues with the red ring of death. It was all good. I enjoyed it, right? What brought me to the PlayStation and thinking of changing was purely and nothing else but a Blu-ray player. I wanted to get a PlayStation 3 because I wanted a Blu-ray player, and because I had jumped from having like a little 12-inch CRT TV, which is what I started. That's the TV I started using my Xbox 360. It was my sister's old TV that I brought with me when me and a few of the lads moved into a house. And I remember spending I think I've mentioned this before, but I remember spending a full week's wages on a new HD TV. It was a 32-inch. I bought it down in
Anisha, I hate to interrupt you.
You're all right.
But you know what this means? What? HD is now officially retro too.
Oh my! That is a very good point, and you're totally right. It is retro. Oh my god, that is fucking crazy, man.
HD is what to CRT was as 4Ks to HD, and even at that 4K is quite old at this point.
Yeah.
Too. Do you know?
Oh my god, that is fucking wild, man. But yeah, so I started on the Xbox 360 playing Assassin's Creed. Guitar Hero was a big one. Playing the Lego games. I played an awful lot of the Lego games. Played a bit of Halo, some Gears of War. I wasn't as I was kind of late to Halo and Gears of War, but eventually did. But then again, I got a PlayStation 3 purely for a Blu-ray. But then didn't it come with a free copy of Dragon Age or Dragon Age Origins, whatever the first Dragon Age game was, and then I just got hooked, man. And then unfortunately the poor Xbox 360 got fucking just left at the side gathering dust for years.
I never lost my love for the 360 even when I got a PlayStation 3. I got a Nintendo Wii, and I really again, I always talk about how much I love aesthetically the Wii, and the Wii was a non-HD console. It was the one, Nintendo always went with their cheaper, innovative ideas. Rather, the last time Nintendo cared about power was the GameCube, right? That's in terms of graphical capabilities. That's the last time they had a system that was, could compete. I mean, the Wii couldn't compete to the 360 or the PS3.
No,
the Wii U couldn't compete with the PS4, Xbox One, and the Switch isn't much more powerful than the Wii U. Do you know what I mean? So that's always been interesting in its own lane from that point of view, I think. But I have another thing to freak you out. Okay?
Right, go on.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, okay? Grand Theft Auto Vice City came out in 2003, I think.
Right.
And it was a game that was set in the 80s, you know what I mean? If Grand Theft Auto Vice City was to come out today, it would be the same gap. If we were rocking in 2024, it would be about a game about the time of 2003 when Vice City came out. That's how much time has traveled. Do you know what I mean? If Vice City was set today, it would have been set when Vice City came out. Do you know what I mean? As a video game rather than the 80s.
That is fucking crazy, man. This is going to be leading a few people into an existential crisis, thinking of their age and their own mortality.
But this is why I say over and over again, retro is completely subjective to how old you are, and it's a feeling, right? Yeah. It's down to a complete vibe and a feeling. It's crazy. You know what I mean? The PS4 came out in 2013, Nisha.
Yeah.
2013.
That's
11.
Crazy.
That's 11 years ago, heading into 12 years ago. Do you know what I mean? For some people, if you're 20 years old, you know what I mean? That came out when you were 7.
Yeah.
That's skirting on some awkward business, you know?
Yeah, I don't think there's any way to deny that this generation, the 7th generation, the Wii, the 360, the PS3 are now officially, unquestionably retro video game consoles. Just because
you're burying yourself into a hole there because people will question you.
I don't care. I don't I'm looking here, right? The Xbox 360 was discontinued in 2016. So it has been past its date over 8 years.
Yeah. And do you remember when we had one of the first conversations we had is what is retro? Why is retro? And we were for some people, it's when it's discontinued.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? For some people, something becomes retro once you can't buy it anymore, you know? Which is really interesting. I have a bit of it. There's a bit of something that's kind of complicated though, right?
Okay.
That the console itself released in 2005, you could say it's retro. But the end of its life cycle was 2013 and beyond, right? So it's hard then to say if every game that came out on it is retro.
Yeah,
right?
That's fair.
For instance, so you'll be saying okay, Gears of War 1 feels weird calling it retro maybe, but is Gears of War 3 retro? I don't know, you know what I mean? It starts getting into the start of the life cycle versus the end. And this is the joke I always make saying, well, The Last of Us must be retro if it's on a PlayStation 3, right?
True. And also I'm kind of hoping to just spark a bit of a conversation and rustle a few feathers with this conversation. Like, if you don't think something that we're talking about is retro, that's fucking grand. It doesn't matter. It's only an opinion.
Get out of my house!
Do you know what I mean? Like, it really, at the end of the day, you know, when it comes down to like console wars and people having debates over, I fucking live and die by this console, it's like, would you ever fuck off? You know what I mean? Like, we're trying, obviously you want to have a fun and interesting conversation, but at the end of the day, it's all personal, and it's down to you, and it's what do you think is retro.
It's the lack of self-awareness of being so insecure about your own choice that you have to go and belittle someone else who made a different choice to you. Because if you were confident in your own choice and you did internally think to yourself, no, I'm happy with the console I got, this is the one for me, you wouldn't be spending all your time on the internet. First of all, not even playing the console. Second of all, probably ignoring your wife, and there's a divorce on the way now because of this, because you're fighting people on the internet that you think your console is better than the other one. You're wasting your energy and your time.
You actually you said a really good one, and it only clicked in me afterwards when I was editing an episode. You were saying, don't yuck somebody's yum. As in, you're standing beside somebody at a deli and they get a sandwich. If they order a sandwich that say you don't like, you're not gonna like be like, what the fuck are you doing ordering a fucking ham and cheese sandwich? What's going on? It's like, who gives a fuck? It's something that, it was a big thing in the early 90s. The console wars were fucking huge in the 90s. Sega and
the
Nintendo.
console wars were so much between the companies more than the people at the time. There was obviously people, you know, flagged a console like you flag a football team or whatever kind of. But there was so much more, like, everyone's doing their own thing now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Xbox is into, it's going to be everywhere. You know, Xbox is Game Pass. PlayStation is still doing their kind of AAA story exclusives, which is a hard market these days. And then Nintendo is always in its own lane. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, it's interesting how, like, it became... I think as the internet evolved and it gave people stupid places to say stupid things.
True.
Looking at you, Twitter. It's only become insane, you know?
Yeah. But I think it's a fun conversation to have because when we started this podcast, for instance, and you were talking about, and we have this ongoing joke, if this is your first episode of Press Any Button to Continue, we have this ongoing joke that Keith calls The Last of Us retro, and I say no it isn't, and that's that whole thing. But if 2 years ago, if you'd have said to me the Xbox 360 is retro, without me thinking, I'd have been like, get the fuck out of here. There's no fucking way that the Xbox 360
close-minded arsehole.
Yes. But now when I really think about it, like, here's the one word, right, that make these consoles retro for me, and it's nostalgia. I have nostalgic memories around the Xbox 360, the PS3, and the Nintendo Wii. So that to me is like, that's a stamp of approval for me for these consoles. Fair enough, games. You could argue 100%. You could argue games, fair enough, that came out very late in the life cycle, that if like the Xbox 360 was discontinued in 2016, fair enough, a game that comes out in 2016 mightn't be considered retro. But I have nostalgia, and that for me makes it retro.
I think that is very true. Like today I was doing a video on Grand Theft Auto 4. I was saying why I think it's better than Grand Theft Auto 5, which could be its own beautiful podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
But it was nostalgic. I was playing a 2008 game that I was 15 or something when it came out. That's half my lifetime ago. I think that's always a good... I always think halving your life is probably a good time to look at when something's nostalgic or retro too.
Yes.
And a big, huge part that you missed out on that is the most nostalgic for me, and many will claim that it will never happen again, it's unique to this generation, is the fact that you had online on the original Xbox and it was really kicking in then, but the Xbox 360 pioneered and is the reason online games are so popular. That's just irrefutable to the mainstream anyway. There's always a level of PC online play. Playing, you know, Halo 3, playing the Gears of War games, like everyone had a microphone, playing all the original Call of Duties, the Modern Warfare, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3. It was, you know, you're playing with all your friends in school, potentially, like that for me was a level of nostalgia. And you'd go into lobbies and you would talk to random strangers all the time, and it was just hilarious. You know, like there was a real sense of being connected to the world when you felt isolated from the world with these consoles, right? It was the first time that consoles could reach outside your home. You know what I mean? And connect with others around you, which I think is really cool. So that's like a time gone by. That's like, I remember my day when they used to be able to speak with the microphones and communicate with comms. Now no one has comms, you know, unless you know the people you're talking to. You're never really stretching out into the random stranger danger ether. Yeah. Which I'm not saying is a good or a bad thing, but you know what I mean? So, I mean, that's such a huge element of those consoles.
It was like the internet just around, like when I'm trying to think of like, when was the internet like what you'd call mainstream? Like what year? Was it around the year that like MySpace came out? Like after early 2000s? Roughly early
I mean,
early 2000s?
For me, like the year 2000, you know, I was like 8. I remember having an email address and looking up Dragon Ball stuff online. I used to load Dragon Ball pages for ages and see these Super Saiyan forms that I've never seen before and be like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, I don't know, like 2000, 2001, like I remember being in school and we had the computer class and we used to play all those Flash games in school, you know.
Yes.
Like we'd have a computer room, you know, and like we used to all play them. So I was kind of feeling it around then, and then it just like...
Yeah.
By the time 2004 and 5 rolled around and people were full on emoing their selection of choices on their social medias, it was pretty big by then.
But like if I think back to internet days, like again, so me and a group of my friends moved into a house when I was 21 or 22, right? So I was born in 87. So at 22 years of age, that's 97, 2007, 2010, 2009, 2010-ish, yeah. We didn't have internet. There was no internet, and it was very normal. It wasn't odd.
Yeah.
It wasn't unusual in 2010. It was only 14 years ago. Because the reason why I'm bringing the internet into the conversation is you're talking about how the Xbox 360 pioneered the internet. My experience, as you said...
online gaming.
Online gaming. Pioneered online gaming. My experience with the Xbox 360 was like, I had totally different, which I think is quite cool and quite interesting that we've had totally different experiences, because mine was offline. Mine was solo. That was it. Like, and that might be to do with, that's just my preferred method of playing, is I'm not a huge online gamer, but I remember getting online for the first time, because it was when I left that house and I was living with my uncle and I had a PS3 and I got Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and it was hooked straight into my veins and I was like just fucking like lost. But I think it's very interesting that these consoles they lived at a time where you could have two people could have the same console and even be playing the same games but have totally different experiences with those games. Because again, I was playing Modern Warfare 2 offline for months and months and months, and I heard everybody talking about Modern Warfare 2. It's such an amazing game. Everybody loved it, and there was me playing through the campaign several times, just thinking, well, this is it. There's no more to this game. And then when I moved out of the house and I got hooked up to the internet and I started playing Modern Warfare 2 online, and I was like, what the fuck? Like,
what new world have I come into?
It just totally...
It's like you went to the Matrix for the first time.
That's what it was like, man. It was fucking crazy. And to me, like that, these stories are nostalgic. That again is what's sealing the deal for me for the Xbox 360, the PS3 and the Wii being retro. But tell me this, do you remember the Wii, right? So we've talked a bit about the 360 and the PS3, but the Wii, do you remember?
We have to talk more about them. I'm not done talking about them by a long shot.
No. But I just want to give everything its fair share. But do you remember when you first got the Wii? Do you remember when the Wii came out and how incredibly, in typical Nintendo style, how incredibly difficult it was to get?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, like the Nintendo Wii was, as I said, it was the first console I think in the world to go mainstream, as in like your mom and your gran wanted it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The way it was advertised, the way motion controls in that time made that console look accessible for anyone to play. In other words, I don't need to have like hand-eye coordination. I just swing my arms about, I can do that. And I remember picking up the Nintendo Wii. I remember opening it in the very room I'm in right now and setting it up.
Deadly.
And I remember being so. I didn't know much about it, oddly enough, outside the ads. The marketing for the Wii was insane. Like every ad at the time was playing some of that stuff. Do you know what
really?
I mean? Yeah, like no, dude, on the TV all the time there was ads for the Wii, like all the time.
Yeah.
So like I remember getting that and being surprised by the software. It had like a weather app. It had this TV aesthetic, like a CRT menu.
Yes.
That you have these different bubbles for. And I remember just being incredibly impressed by the Virtual Console. I downloaded Mario 64 straight away onto it.
Oh, very good.
Ocarina of Time, which was so cool. Stuff, to be honest with you, that like again I feel like is lacking with the Switch these days. I think the Wii is I think when you think of the pinnacle of Nintendo, you think of probably the NES, the SNES. The N64 and GameCube weren't as successful by all accounts and measures. Do you know what I mean? The Wii was. The Wii was really their next big hit after the Super Nintendo. You know what I mean? The Wii U wasn't, the Switch was. And I got and this is when people like talk about generations of consoles, man. Like I like all of them, but like some generations are just better than others for different companies and they learn from each other. Like I think the 360 had a good head start over the PS3 and was marginally better. I think the PS4 was far better than the Xbox One, and now I think the Series X, the way things are going, will be better than the PS5. But it's just like that's subjective to me what I think, but I also think like at the end of a life cycle you can look back objectively and be like, actually they did this great or they did that great.
I think there's I think there's no denying that the Wii was a great console, having sold over 100 million units, which is like outrageous amount to think of. And like you said, it was, I don't specifically remember the marketing, but I do know
that blows my mind.
See, I see the Wii for me, right? It was a bit of an odd. Again, we talk about that when we hit that age of it was all about going out and partying, and kind of video games were kind of by the wayside. Because I remember the Wii, and I actually remember the GameCube. Like to me, they existed in tandem at the same time, and I was confused by it because I was like, why is Twilight Princess on this console and Twilight Princess on this console? What's going on here? Because I remember borrowing a GameCube and playing it on a GameCube, and I remember having a Wii and playing it on the Wii, and it didn't make sense in my brain, man. Like it totally didn't.
Yeah.
And again, when I had the Wii, I didn't actually have any virtual. I had no internet when I got the Wii. Again, didn't have the internet. I didn't have any virtual console, so I only got to experience. I remember I think I just had Wii Sports for ages, like for a long time. Only had,
which is a great game,
fantastic, really, really good. But I also didn't have it until the following year. So it came out in Europe in 2013. I didn't get it until Christmas 2014 because it was so incredibly difficult. And I remember I remember, like I said to my dad, he was like, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I was like, "Oh, I want a Nintendo." And I wasn't really expecting it, and then he ended up getting me a Nintendo Wii, and I was like, holy fuck, that's really cool. Like, it was really nice.
Yeah.
But it came obviously with Wii Sports load or packaged with it, but then I didn't pick up any games for a while. But again, it was the marketing. I don't know. I don't think I was in the headspace of video games at the time. So it just like I loved me 360 and I loved me PS3. But
because you see, like, you got to remember, like, I was 14 when this was 15 when this was all coming out, and then you would have been the extra 4 years. Like, you would have been like able to go out and do stuff. So like, it was a perfect age for me because I was sentient enough to like really appreciate video games the way I do now. Like, I appreciated video games back then the way I do now. Like, they became like that art form to me, or like, looking after the consoles and the hardware and just loving everything about them, was an extension of my life at that point. So I definitely was in it. And I think, like, is there any Wii games that come to your mind when you think of the Wii?
Like, obviously Wii Sports. I know that's a bit of a cop-out because everybody remembers Wii Sports, but that's the first one that comes to my mind. But then for me, it was Twilight Princess and Mario Galaxy. I think
Yeah.
were the two games.
It's interesting because there was so much shovelware on the Wii because like everyone's like, well, I'll just add motion controls to this thing and sell this garbage. Like there was a lot of garbage on the Wii.
Yeah.
Like that didn't exist on other consoles. I mean, Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2, Wii Sports. There was the new Super Mario Bros, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword. There was Smash Bros Brawl at the time on it, I guess would have been a big one. I remember like Red Steel was a launch game. That was like a sword katana game that you were
I actually have a copy of that. I've never played it. I found it
It's very fun for like 5 minutes kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
this is a problem I think with some of these games as well. They're almost like tech demos, you know? They're like, ooh, this is fun for like an hour.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Resident Evil 4, of course, was ported very uniquely to play with the Wii, which would have been cool. There was Mario Party, Punch Out. Trauma Center, which was oddly enough a fantastic game where you play, it's like an anime game of a team of doctors, full anime show style where you have to do surgeries with the Wiimote, which is really, really fun. Mario Kart, I guess there was
actually
there was
that
Mario
was
Kart Wii as well.
Yeah. Mario Kart was
The first online Mario Kart.
Was it the first online Mario Kart? Yeah.
Or maybe the DS one was. Was the DS one before that? I'm not sure. Oh, close anyway.
The first like main console online one, I suppose. Then.
Yes, which is kind of cool. But
What-
then again, with how sporadically they're releasing Mario Karts, that's like the last game before the one that was out now.
What was the first game that you got with your Wii?
I have Wii Sports, which actually came in a proper box. So like, here's the interesting thing, right? There's
All
different
right.
models of the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
Same way that there's different models of the PS3 and stuff. Now the Wii ones you wouldn't notice, but there was some revisions. I think some of them don't play GameCube games actually, but a huge thing. The Wii is a GameCube with a sensor bar attached onto it. There was early development pictures of basically where that's what they did with it.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, but it's what was he saying? Sorry.
What was it? What was the first? What was the first game that you got with the Wii?
So Wii Sports, yeah, because it came with it. But as I said, a lot of people got theirs in a cardboard envelope. I was looking at my shelf, and I have like the original one that came in a proper box. Do you know?
That's how mine is. I still have my original copy, but it was the little cardboard fella.
I actually have a goal on my stream this week to play Wii Sports if we hit it.
Nice.
Dressed as Tingle.
Oh, yeah, very good, very good. I hope you do. That'll be gas. But yeah, I also do remember playing New Super Mario Bros, which I did think was fun and was one of the few games that I enjoyed multiplayer, like couch co-op kind of playing. Which I thought was really, really fun. But look, I think the Wii just looked so futuristic when it came out. It had its tilted stand.
It still looks gorgeous.
It has the blue light that sticks out, or that shines out the front. It has the sensor bar, the style of the controller, the nunchuck, and it was just so innovative. Is that the right word? It just seemed like Nintendo had just totally changed the game, pun intended. And it was a really, really cool console. But then I suppose when we get to, if we go back to the likes of the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360.
But before we do, I have a fun little game I just came up with, okay?
Go on.
And I want you to answer this based purely off feeling.
Okay.
Since we were talking about, the console life cycle, the beginning to the end, maybe the beginning feels retro, maybe the end doesn't. I'm going to name out some Wii games, and I want you to tell me straight away if you feel they're retro or not.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Okay, so Twilight Princess.
Yes. I'm kind of struggling to get there, but I'm gonna say yes because it's on the Wii, or it's on the GameCube, and to me,
a launch title on the Wii.
Fuck's sake.
Which would be interesting because we're saying the consoles are retro, but we're saying its launch game isn't, which is, I mean, I love that it doesn't make sense, if you know what I mean, because you're going with feeling rather than logic.
Yeah, I quite like that as well. I'm going to say yes, Twilight Princess to me is retro.
Skyward Sword.
No, I don't. I never played it. Or sorry, I never completed. I didn't. I started and was like, this isn't for me.
Yeah, that was the same. It's a 5-year gap, in fairness to it. Do you know what I mean? From Twilight Princess to Skyward Sword, but It's an interesting one. Okay, Super Smash Brothers Brawl.
No, but again, I didn't play it, so I don't have any feelings towards it, unfortunately. So, but I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
It doesn't jump out at me.
Super Mario Galaxy.
That's a tough one.
Because it looks so new in HD, but it is quite old.
I am gonna say yes, it's retro because I have nostalgia around the game. So,
yeah, that's fair. I actually think we should do a whole episode on Mario Galaxy because I think it's probably the best Mario game or the most underrated Mario game. It's a hard one to, because like I have played it very little. Yeah, like I've finished it once or twice, I think.
That's it. Yeah,
but like
me too.
But it's also like, oh, I don't know. I think it's well worth going back to, man. It's incredible.
Can you get it on the Switch online?
You can only get it in that bloody 3D All Stars collection
really?
that they cooked you out of. Yeah. Fuck. I can lend it to you, or you can just play it on the Wii.
Yeah, true. Actually,
but on HD, it is nice, you know. Yeah. Let me see what other ones we got. Okay, Mario Kart Wii.
Yeah. I'm gonna say it's retro.
That feels retro, doesn't it? Even though it came out like 2 years after Twilight Princess, it does like feel
totally
retro.
Just, like there wasn't a hesitation for me there.
Yeah, I think also by the fact that Mario Kart 8 was out for 84 years, you really have to say it's retro because that in itself is teetering on retro. Yeah, I think that's interesting. There's like Donkey Kong Country on it as well. There's a couple of Mario parties, but I think they're the main ones to see how you feel about them. You know what I mean?
Quite like
I think we'll have more.
Yeah,
I think we'll have more interesting answers when it comes to the PlayStation 3 and the 360, which could be a prime opportunity. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a great way to end part 1 of the podcast, and we can jump straight into part 2 because we can get into the crux of the PS3 and 360 video games, because we know a lot of people are enjoying the fact that some of our episodes are split into 2-parters now, into little itty bitty titty chunks, and people are enjoying it. So part 2 is available right now. Let's
go click on it, listen. It's a me, a fuck you.